everybody, welcome back. It's been a while since we've been able to visit with you here in the journal room, but we're super excited to be back and start a new fasting period going into one of our major feasts. If you don't know who I am Natalie Kapellik-Nixon, the Director of Youth Ministry, and this is just part of our youth ministry team. With us tonight, we have Katerina, Michaela. Those are faces that should be familiar, and we've got a new face in our journal room. Everybody, this is Liam. So as in the past, we'll have other faces pop in the coming weeks. Some familiar, maybe some new faces. And we're, like I said, we are just super, super excited to have you join us as we go into the Nativity Fast. As we get started, we're going to talk this week about making room for the Christ child in our life. And what does that mean? So I kind of picked this topic and I threw it at everybody before we came. And I'm going to ask each of them what they think about it and how they're going to use that in their journal in the coming week. But before I kind of toss it over to the first person, we're kind of talking about, we know that there was no room at the inn for Christ. Poor Joseph and Mary were going from door to door knocking, but Bethlehem was full to the gills. Wow, there is a phrase I'm sure many of you don't know that tells you how old I am, everybody. They're all looking at me like, I don't know what you just said. So it was full and they just couldn't find anywhere to go. And, I'm sure that's like probably going to the city that has the Super Bowl and you show up that night and all the rooms are booked. They got there, nowhere to stay. And finally, they found one place that took mercy on them and said, we have some stables and you can go and stay there. So somebody, even though they were so super, super, super full, took a minute when they saw someone who was in need and made room for them. And so how do we do that? I wanted to just read a little bit of a prayer. So for those of you that go through all of the prayers before communion and preparation, in one of the prayers from St. John Chrysostom, and this is actually one of my favorites, it actually talks about preparing for the Christ child in this prayer. And I love it because every Sunday, when I read it, or even Saturday night, if I can do it Saturday night, it almost reminds me, of Christ's purpose from the time, of his birth and how it all ties together. So anyway, I will read you just the beginning of this prayer. So, O Lord, my God, I know that I am not worthy nor sufficient that you should enter under the roof into the habitation of my soul, for it is all deserted and in ruins. And you do not have a fitting place in me to lay your head. But as from the heights of your glory you did humble yourself, so now bear me in my humility, as you did deign to lie in a manger in a cave, so deign now also to come into the manger of my mute soul and corrupt body. So that's just the beginning of the prayer. But every week I'm reminded, that I make room for him when I take communion. And, just like he went into a manger, there were animals and it wasn't the greatest, I was saying, like, in my corrupt soul that, you're deigning to come into it, just like he deigned to go into that manger. So I am going this first week as we go into the fast, I think I'm going to focus on that, like just clearing out just the way I do my mind and my heart for communion every week, and starting to prepare that way. And I'm gonna take the time, and I'm gonna take the time to write that prayer in my journal so that I can meditate as I write on it. So that's me getting started in my journal, everybody. I am going to ask Katerina what she's going to be working on this first week.
So I think for me personally this week, I'm really going to focus on like taking time out of my day to make room for the Christ child. So, take 10, 20 minutes away from doing something else and make room, make that time for Christ. So I think for me, what I'm going to do is on my drive into work, it's usually about a 20, 25-minute drive. Instead of listening to the radio or a podcast, I think I'm going to spend that time in prayer. So that's kind of what I'm going to try to focus on doing. Take time away from what I would normally do and do something a little extra to give extra time in for Christ. So I think that's what I'm going to work on. And, maybe each week focus on different, praying for, a different subject or different people. So going to work on that in my journal, giving each week a different purpose for my prayer.
That's kind of cool. I like giving each week a different focus to get you going. It's kind of hard to make room in our lives as it is, to find when you've got that time. And I think, Katarina, that's like a great time to try to find. I know one of my cousins, she used to do it on the bus going into work, like into Pittsburgh. And, she said, you have all that distraction on a bus, but if she would just put, headphones in, she could focus on her prayer book. And life gets even more crazy as we get closer to Christmas, right? There are parties and movies and shows and all sorts of things as we get ready. So, how do you make room when there's even more stuff getting sort of piled in? So cool. Thanks, Katerina. So I'm going to knock it over to our new journal room friend, Liam. And Liam is in an interesting place. Now, most of you know, if we have maybe some younger friends in the journal room with us today, you might not realize that some of us are on one calendar and some of us are on another calendar. Those of us who are older journalers already know that. And so that's kind of an interesting thing. And he happens to be on what we call the new calendar. So Liam is already a little bit into the fast, but he's humoring us as we start journaling 2 weeks after him. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up because you might be thinking, I already started the fast and they're just starting their journals. That's okay, because Liam's starting with us now too. So welcome, Liam.
Yeah, thanks, Natalie. So hello, my name is Liam. I'm from the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. I attend church at St. Mary's OCA Cathedral and St. George Antiochian Orthodox Church in Minneapolis and West St. Paul, respectively. And those Orthodox churches are on what is known as the new calendar. So we celebrate Christmas on December 25th. So our Nativity Fast actually began on November 15th. I guess I'd share, from the first episode, everybody kind of shared their journal. So I just thought I'd share mine. I just got a nice, simple black one from Target. So Target is a Minnesota company. So
Liam, my mom's from there. And I know because when I went there every summer, it hadn't become a chain yet. And that was the thing, which we would go to Target when we would go to Minneapolis to visit my family. So I do know that. Ladies, you notice like how simple Liam's journal is. You can, I don't know if it's a guy thing. You have a nice, simple journal. Mine's very ornate. I don't remember what your twos look like. Oh, she's using her intern notebook. I forgot about that.
Mine's blue. I don't have it with me.
Is it got a little something on it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, Liam.
No, it's okay.
I will do that, by the way.
Please do. I have a few blank pages at the start. Just because, good to have blank pages if you ever want to add something in. I know intercession lists have been used before. I think that's something I want to add in eventually. This past weekend, I actually was at a retreat through Orthodox Christian Fellowship, so I have some notes from there. But But as I start for Advent, I'm very much a chronological thinker. So I do want to start my journaling after that. And I like using like bullet points and arrows to kind of diagram my thoughts. So that's what I'm planning to do. And something that we as Orthodox Christians really emphasize, or what I've experienced, is that hospitality is a really, really important within how we practice our faith. Um, and that can look in a couple of different ways. Of course, you know, there's the hospitality of Abraham, the famous icon of the Holy Trinity, with Abraham and Sarah. Hospitality also looks like the Good Samaritan. Um, and, you know, within this theme of finding room for Christ, just as Bethlehem found room for Christ, hospitality is something we should practice with our Advent fast. Almsgiving is really important during this fast. Minnesota has Focus Minnesota as an Orthodox Christian outreach, but if you don't have one in your area, I would recommend getting involved in almsgiving somehow. I know at the time of our recording, it's a couple days before Thanksgiving. And yeah, so something I want to journal is how can I practice almsgiving and what that looks like in our life. Sometimes we think it needs to be this grandiose thing, but almsgiving can be as simple as saying thank you to someone, or getting someone a glass of water, or I don't know, something small. So those are just some thoughts I'm thinking about in this theme, and something I want to journal and explore more. Explore more as we continue on our Advent journey.
That's like a neat aspect to look at it. And when you think about it, you know, nativity or Christmas time, it is a time, it's all about hospitality, right? People are all, you're so many different parties to go to, or you're coming to your own home, or like you said, we're filming right before Thanksgiving, which is all about, right, normally people coming into other people's homes. So, you know, yeah, that's a good way to think about it, you know, as you're being hospitable to people as they're maybe coming into your home or into your life. Do you see them as Christ coming into your home, you know, or Christ coming into your life? So I think that's a kind of a neat way of looking at making room for him by making room for others. Cool. All right, Michaela, you're you're up, Michaela.
I usually look at like the first week of like any fasting period, like as like just refocusing like my mental state and just like my life in general. Like I look at it as like, you know, beginning of like the new year, like new year, new me kind of thing, but like just refocusing for the first week of Lent, not Lent, fasting, any sort of like fasting period. So just kind of like prioritizing again like what's important in my life, because I know like life can get crazy and you kind of like forget about the important things because you're focused on like mundane things. So yeah, I use that as a time to like refocus spiritually, mentally, reconnect with family, people around me. So yeah.
A good thing to do is refocus. And you know, and what's great is, you know, in the wisdom of the church, we have 4 times a year to do that, you know, and they're spread out pretty evenly. I mean, we have Peter and Paul and Dormition pretty close to each other. But otherwise, you know, you kind of have like these 4 kind of spaced out times to do that. Like once you kind of get crazy and need to get yourself back in the game with everything. All right. Well, that's kind of neat. I can't wait to see next time we're together what your journals look like. I'm going to have to work on mine. It's been sitting patiently for me to pick it up. I have been bad. I have to be honest, everybody. I've been bad about using my journal. So I'm going to pick it back up. Just like Michaela said, reset, right? I'm going to pick it back up and reset and use this to get ready for the Nativity of Christ. Anything else y'all want to add before we take off? Happy Thanksgiving. That's it. Thumbs up from everybody. All right. Well, we do hope that all of you have or had, depending on when we release this, a most blessed Thanksgiving. And we'll be seeing you hopefully every week during the Nativity Fast. Bye, everybody. Thanks, team.